Here with Scott McClure, the manager of championship sports for the NAIA at the NAIA National Championships 55th edition here in Des Moines. First thing we're noticed with the NAIA is the tremendous amount of growth we've been seeing with wrestling. What do you attribute that to the most?
I think it's kind of a team effort on behalf of on the part of our coaches and people like Mike Moyer at the NWCA. And a little bit at the national office as well. When I took this job about 11 years ago, we had 18 varsity wrestling programs, and there was talk about eliminating wrestling from the championship sport in the NAIA. Since then, we've kind of had a combined effort to do all that we can do to recruit new teams, to recruit new programs, and it's basically sending the message that there are tens of thousands of high school wrestlers out there, and as Division I cut their programs in the NCAA, there's lots of opportunities in the NAIA, and a lot of our institutions are tuition-driven institutions. We've got lots of success stories where new NAIA programs have started wrestling programs and brought in lots of new student athletes to their campuses. And we just, for example, a school like Lindsey Wilson College, a second-year program, is having lots of success this year, and it's just because of their commitment to the sport and to growing the sport as well.
Lindsey Wilson with 3 finalists, as you said, in their second year. But if you look at the team standings, of the top 10, 7 of these schools are less than 10 years old when they were established within the last decade. What's it say to even NCAA institutions that are enrollment driven to say, hey, let's look at wrestling as an option?
It's a great point. Like I said, there's lots of talented high school wrestlers out there, and I think we take some pride in the fact that we are growing wrestling in the NAIA. I think we are on pace to add 5 or 6 new programs next year, and that's exciting for us. It's exciting for the NAIA, and it's like I said, it's just a boost to collegiate wrestling.
A lot of the growth has been in the South. There's been several teams in the Mid-South Conference that have added it. Life University and Metro Atlanta announced within the last week that they're going to be adding wrestling. Bruton Parker, Truett McConnell. We saw Shorter, even though they're jumping to Division II. But what's it mean about the growth in where there's really not been a whole lot of college wrestling, whether it be NAIA or NCAA, but like a state like Georgia really getting behind it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, we've got a couple people in Georgia that are in the business of growing the sport of wrestling. They're in the club programs, and they've identified the NAIA. They've contacted us over the last 4 or 5 years, and I can't say that we're doing a whole lot, but we're helping where we can, and we're connecting them with the people that want to grow the sport of wrestling at the college ranks down in the South.
One thing that's kind of been a knock on the NAIA is the joke that, well, if you don't get eligibility in NCAA, you can jump to the NAIA. What are you guys really trying to do to combat that, maybe that misinterpretation, that stereotype that say these are quality institutions, quality wrestling, quality educational experiences?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just misinformation, and we have to do our best to educate the consumer about our academic standards are just as high, or in some cases higher than the NCAA. We've got a new eligibility center that's helping with that. Just branding the NAIA, you're right. We have tremendous student athletes, whether they're playing basketball, baseball, or in the sport of wrestling. So just us doing a better job of getting the message out.
What's one thing you'd like to see the NAIA do more of with wrestling?
Oh, that's a tough question.
All right, how about this?
I guess publicize and promote. You know, Amanda Dahl, who was with us for 2 years, did a great job in terms of working, getting the word out as far as publicity. She's done a great job at this championship, as well as our media coordinator. But I think we still hear that from pockets of the country. It's like, hey, you need to treat wrestling like you treat all the other sports. And I think we're doing that. We're doing a better job, but I think we can always get better.
What are some things you're really, really pleased about with the growth of wrestling, not just from a sports standpoint, but from your entire organization?
It's another tough question. Say that again. Help me out.
What are you most pleased with in terms of, obviously you're getting your member institutions, more enrollment, more revenue. What are things you're pleased about? Obviously, we've got a 4th program right here in Des Moines and Grandview that's on pace to win a national title. Is that something that you can look at maybe some member institutions that are looking at wrestling going, look, you can be immediately competitive?
Oh, exactly. And you make a good point there, because a school like Indiana Tech this year, first-year program, I think they had 10 or 11 national qualifiers. We want to build on those success stories to other schools, other institutions that are thinking about adding the sport, to say, you know what, there are some great examples, and Grandview University is definitely one of those.
Let's switch gears a little bit and genders. A lot of the growth in women's wrestling has been at the NAIA programs. Is there any timetable on maybe when the NAIA might sponsor women's wrestling as a championship sport?
It's there's basically a three-step process that any emerging sport has to get to. You have to get to a magic number of 15 to be recognized. You have to get to 25 to be eligible for an invitational championship. By that time, you can start like a coaches association once you get recognized as an emerging sport. The growth of women's wrestling, and it's another thing that we take pride in as well. Archie Randall, the head coach at Oklahoma City, is one of the biggest supporters of women's wrestling, and I think that it's catching on within other NAIA institutions.
As far as schools coming back and forth, we'll go back to the men's side for a moment, even though Lindenwood Belleville has just announced they're adding women's wrestling, and they're on the radar trying to join the NAIA.
Yeah, and I honestly believe next month at our national convention, I've got my fingers crossed, but they will be approved as a new member, and I think they will be one of those programs, if they're approved as an NAIA member, that will be instantly competitive in wrestling, because I know what they've done. What their previous Lindenwood University at St. Charles, Missouri, was a dominant force in wrestling in the NAIA, and I think they will. The Belleville campus will fund it and support it just as much.
With the teams that have reclassified to Division II, and some of those are new programs like Notre Dame College, and then some stalwarts like Lindenwood, as you mentioned, do you think it's going to get easier to replace those teams as they reclassify up to, or excuse me, not up, but reclassify to NCAA Division II?
I'm glad you said up and then took that back, because I guess that's one of our pet peeves, because we don't see it as a move up. Maybe they do. I'm sure they publicize it that way. But we feel like NAIA wrestling and NAIA institutions are just as strong as the Division II NCAA programs.
Very similar, a lot of them enrollment-based. Scholarship, that's one thing that a lot of people, Division III is non-scholarship. The NAIA, you got scholarship money.
Exactly, and I think, I'll go back to the start of the whole interview in terms of we take pride in the fact that we're growing the sport, and as we lose one or two or three or four, we're going to double that in what we bring in as far as new programs.
Well, we lose shorter also, but you're picking up St. Andrews, who is probably coming in as well with that same meeting. Are they going to be probably approved, or is that something you can speak on?
I can't really speak on it right now. The same thing. I've got my fingers crossed that they are approved, and those new prospective members, that's one of the first things I look at is, do they have a varsity wrestling program, or are they considering that? And like I said, I think we may have 5 or 6 new NAIA wrestling programs next year, and that's exciting.
And how many more women's programs? That's what we really want to see too.
Exactly, and I don't have the exact numbers on that, but I know Archie Randall will tell me.
Well, from where you guys sit at the NAIA, do you think maybe Big Brother NCAA is looking at you guys as maybe the litmus test on how women's wrestling is received and done as a potential championship sport?
That's a good question, and I honestly believe that when we talk about NAIA, we talk about our new branding, it's all about the student athlete, and it's all about opportunities to compete for national championships. And it doesn't matter what gender, men or women, we're always looking to add new programs, new championships, new opportunities.